today. We'll be okay. Opening question for today, why are bars so attractive? That's bars, yes. You know the place where you go in and you order a drink? One of those places. Why are they so attractive? Camaraderie. Some of you are saying, wait a second, Josh, this is not an attractive place to me. And I appreciate you people, but why are they? Camaraderie. What else? Everybody knows your name. She was looking at my outline. That's the problem there. I looked up the Cheers line because that's my point. I can't give it to you yet. I have to wait. Just going to jump ahead. Everybody knows your name. What else? Did anyone here question? I saw some shake their head no, but did anyone question I do not think that bars are attractive? Anyone? Okay, we got a couple. Okay. I grew up across the street from 2 bars. So my preteen, Ashley's laughing. We lived in a single wide across the street from 2 bars. There was 2 bars, and between the 2 bars was the hair parlor where you went and got your hair cut at. So that's where I grew up. But I remember this was probably preteen years, looking out across the street, and on a Friday, Saturday night, let's be honest, Tuesday night, it didn't matter what night, that place was packed. You couldn't have fit another car in the parking lot on both of them. And by the way, this is kind of out in the stick. It's a 20-minute drive to get even to the edge of town from here. So people are leaving town to come out to here to this bar, and I'm thinking, why? What's so incredible? My family's been in bars, so it's I know smoke's billowing out. I know it's probably not the most wholesome of places. What attracts people to that? Guy, you said it. Camaraderie. For some ability, the bar scene has the ability to draw people in and to hold them. It has that, if I say gift, I want to use that term loosely, it's got that gift to bring people in and to make them feel comfortable. The Cheers line, which by the way, the Cheers logo, sometimes you want to go. Do y'all know the tune? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. I hear it really good from this side. This side, y'all don't know Cheers? I hear I got it really good out of my left ear. But you got where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You want to be where you can see our troubles are all the same. And then there's several lines to it. I look at that mentality and I realize that when a person enters into a bar, they have an instant sense of community. They fit in. Because every one of them has a common interest. And we could start with the common interest being whatever's in the bottle or whatever's in the glass, or we could start with that, but everyone has a common interest beyond that. Because typically, everyone's there and they all feel the same way. It's a common emotion. You know, whether it's a troubled home life, whether it's a troubled job life, whether it's just trouble in general, everyone has a common story. And so we can all enter into the bar scene, we can all have the common taste, the common life, and then all of a sudden, it doesn't matter what the differences are. Your problem might be your marriage, and your problem might be finances, but hey, guess what? We're in it together. And it creates a community. Boy, my question for today, does the church do that? I don't have to have an answer. I want you to think about it. Does the church do that? I think in our text for today, we're going to be in Ephesians Chapter 4. Because of what Christ has done, I'm going to say that we can walk faithful in a calling and in a character to create a community as a church. That's what my goal is. That's what our objective is today. It's going to come down to 3 points. Is that there is a calling, there is a character, but then we as a church have to be a community. We have to be a community. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1. Paul starts off in verse 1 with this idea of unity. But he says it's a united calling, is point 1. United calling. He starts with this phrase, I am a prisoner. So if you have a Bible, we're going to be in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1. I am a prisoner of the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling that you've received. Paul opens up this phrase, and by the way, the first 3 chapters of Ephesians has been about the glory of Jesus, the glory of God, what God has done for you, and what He is continuing to do. So that's where Paul is in chapters 1 through 3. Chapters 4, 5, and 6 of Ephesians is written from the perspective of because of what Jesus has done, because of what God has done, this is how you live. So we're on first part of the how you live. And as we start chapter 4, verse 1, Paul says, I'm a prisoner of the Lord's. Now, Paul is physically in chains. He's in jail at this point. By the way, it's kind of it's like a home jail, so he's got like an ankle monitor on. He doesn't run free, by the way, but he says, I'm literally a prisoner in life. But how else could you look at that? Could you also realize that Paul is a prisoner to Jesus Christ because he knows the debt that he owes? Because he knows the gravity of his sinfulness, he knows the gravity of his spiritualness, and that it all is dependent upon Jesus. And so as I start with verse 1, Paul says, as a prisoner of the Lord, I'm a physical prisoner. I'm in chains, I'm in handcuffs. This is my life. But more so, I'm a spiritual prisoner. Jesus is the one who holds me captive. He's the one that maintains me now as a prisoner of the Lord. I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling that you have received. A united calling. What is that calling? Think about that for a brief moment. What is the calling that he's talking about here? You know, if you go back just a little ways in our text, you're going to see that in Ephesians chapters 1 and 2 and 3, Paul's going to go through several little phrases here. But the chapter 2, verse 2 is really kind of where I think one of the clinchers is. Paul says, we'll start chapter 2, verse 1. As for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sins, in which you used to live, when you followed the ways of this world, the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the spirit that is now at work in those who are disobedient. All of us, verse 3, lived among them at one time. That's Ephesians 2 and verse 3. We followed the desires and the thoughts of this world. Like the rest, we were by nature deserving the wrath. But what? If you have a Bible and you're open to verse 4, but what? But because of His what? Because of His great love for us. Because God looked down from heaven and called you out and said, I expect, I desire, I commission, I call you to live a life different than the worthless life that anyone can live anywhere else. We are called, brothers and sisters, to live a life outside of what this world calls us to. There's a reason that some of you have said the bar scene wasn't attractive. There's a reason some of us have been in a bar scene before and said, man, this place seems really cool. There's a reason for that. And there's a reason that people get trapped in that cycle. Some of you have been there. Or you know people who have. There's a reason that happens. And it's not just because everybody knows your name. It's because the power that is at work within this world is also calling you. It calls you to live to yourself, to do the things you want to do, to desire the things that everything in this world calls you to desire. And Jesus is calling on the other side, and He is saying, Kevin, Kevin just right with eyes right now, Kevin, live a life worthy of the calling. Step out from the world and be a different person. Step out from among the normal people and live a life of a model example, the life that I'm calling you to live. So when we start with this united calling, we, each one of us, are to live a life that's worthy of the calling that we've had. There's this story about Alexander the Great that y'all know who Alexander the Great is? Heard the guy? Okay. There's a story about him. I'm trusting that it's a true story. But he met another individual who was also named Alexander. It's kind of a powerful name, isn't it? And that when he met this other Alexander was kind of a loathsome, would that be a good word? He was not a great individual. He didn't really aspire to anything. He didn't really do anything. And the quote goes that Alexander the Great said to this man, either change your way of life or change your name. Either change your way of life or change your name. Friends, we are called to Jesus Christ. We are called to wear His name on our chest, on our forehead, wherever you want to wear it. I don't know, but it's going to be public. We are called to live that life. Either change your way of life or change your name. The second point that we come across in our text here, so first, verse 1 is a united calling. We are called out. The second point is really a united character. A united character. Look at verses 2 and 3 with me. This is Ephesians 4. Be completely humble and patient, and gentle and patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Be completely humble. Boy, our world does not teach humility. Our churches aren't always the greatest at either, are we, Mike? Humility is the ability to lower yourself. It's not necessarily thinking lower of yourself. It's kind of thinking less about yourself. I don't really know how to phrase it properly. Is that good? Look, I'll just trust the Spirit said whatever I needed to say. Philippians Chapter 2 is probably the best passage on humility that I can think of. Jesus Christ, who was in the form of God, did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped, but humbled Himself. It says that He became obedient to the point of death, even the death of a cross. And because of His humility, because of His ability to lower Himself, to think less about Himself, it says, this is about verse 7 of chapter 2 of Philippians, that God elevated Him to a place that at His name every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. When we think of humility, it's not about trash talking myself. And man, sometimes I'm good at that. But it's about looking at myself and knowing I'm a child of God, but lowering myself and saying, I need to think about Matt a little bit more. I sure should. I need to think about Matt a little bit more. I need to think about others more. Humility. Be completely humble and gentle. When I say gentle, Miss Faye, what comes to your mind? What do you think of? Holding a sweet baby. The way that you have to be gentle with them. You can't just shake them like a rag doll. Shouldn't, at least. What else do you think of, Miss Betty? When you think of gentle, what do you think? Kindness. We think of the word gentle. We have an understanding of what it's like to be gentle. That doesn't mean that we go off yelling at the next person who's gone off and done something wrong. That doesn't mean when someone cuts us off in the traffic that we start honking our horn and we instantly start jumping to conclusions. What it says is that, I'm a person who's comfortable understanding that other things may be fragile, but that I'm strong enough to handle the fragile. Be humble. Be gentle. Are y'all ready for this word? be patient. Oh. Can we just go ahead and say that we struggle with this one? Can we just go ahead and say, yes, we do? You're like, I wish Josh would go ahead and stop talking about right now. Right? It's like, yes, I do. Yes, I understand the whole patience thing. Because when you're waiting, the other day, Luke had this conversation with me, and I appreciate it. You'll understand it. When I was waiting at the Chick-fil-A drive-thru, and I thought, they're not fast enough. Yes, I was like, come on, Chick-fil-A, you're letting me down. It's because no one would have been in the KFC line. Oh, bird. I'm sorry, Lyle. I had to. It was a perfect opportunity. I can't redeem from that one now, can I? I can't redeem from that one. Yeah, where's the Gatorade? I'll have to hold on to the Gatorade. I got to get my thought back. I'm completely lost. I have it written down. I'll have to look at it. Oh, yeah, there we go. Patient. We were at Chick-fil-A, drive-thru. Hurry up. And I realize it doesn't matter where I'm at in life. Maybe you're the same. I could be at the Chick-fil-A drive-thru, which is record fast. KFC, they're fast too. I'll give you credit. I could wait at the red light. And for some reason, the red light doesn't change quick enough. And now the one on Outer Loop and Old Shep, the turn signal used to turn first. It doesn't now. They let traffic go and then the turn signal turns. It's annoying. And I sit there and I think, why in the world do they have to change this? And I'm sitting there thinking, why can't I just enjoy the moment? It's illegal unless you stop, and I don't want to stop. So patience is a virtue, is what we say. But if we're being honest, how often do we exhibit the virtue of patience? And then I'm currently exhibiting, or I'm currently sharing secular examples where does it really matter if I'm being patient with the red light? It probably doesn't in the matter of God. I don't know if He really cares if I'm waiting patiently for the red light. But I can guarantee you this: if I'm not patient for the red light, am I patient with my brothers and sisters in Christ? Might not be. And that I do know God cares about. I don't know if He cares about the red light at Old Shep, but I know He cares if I am patient with Miss Sue, if I'm making sure that I'm being caring and gentle and patient for Miss Sue. He cares if I'm being patient towards other people, particularly people within our brothers and sisters, and also people who aren't. The quality of patience matters to our God. Because wasn't He also patient? Or isn't He also patient? Wanting that no one should perish, but that all should come to repentance? God Himself exhibits a patience that we wait in. Bearing with one another. Boy, this is a tough one. And you know why it's a tough one? Because it kind of culminates all of these together, and it puts me in a position to ask, do I bear with you in life? And bear means like I'm going to help pick you up. I'm going to help carry you. Do I bear the problems with you? Am I willing to charge into life, holding you up? And that's a part where I think we probably struggle even still in this church. The ability to pick other people up and to bear with them, to understand that maybe what they need is different than what I need. And that maybe what they're getting out is more important than what I'm getting out. I say that we struggle with that here, and I don't mean to pick and point to here, because I could go to any church in America and say the exact same thing, knowing or not knowing the people, because I know that's a human problem. You know why I know that's a human problem? Because Paul tells us. Because, what was that, Mike? Because we're self-centered. Paul knew it. He didn't say self-centered. But if you're in verse 3, he says, make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Keep or make every effort to keep. By the way, unity and peace and community are things that are granted to us by God. They're things that we can develop, but they're not really developed. It is a gift from God, the ability for us to be together. When you go to a bar, there's a reason that community is formed. It's formed in the shared and liked experiences. When we come to a church, there's a reason that community should be formed, and it's because we are all the same in shared like experiences. We serve a God. That's what makes us all one. The problem is that when it comes to bearing with one another, when it comes to, what was that other word? Being patient, bearing with one another, and when it comes to making every effort, this is verse 3, to keep the unity of the Spirit, oftentimes in a church, we think about the things that divide us instead of the things that unite us. That's our real problem. So when we come to verse 3 of the text, Paul is telling us that the real problem is God has given us a unity. The unity is we are servants of His. We are children of the King. We are, you name it, we are united in the blood of Christ. We are connected by the Spirit. We could go through any term that we want to go through that God has done for us. But the real unity and the real problem that we experience, and it's the same everywhere you go, is that we focus on the things that bring us apart instead of the things that unite us. And let me just give you some examples in the event that you don't really have an example off the top of your head. Politics. Politics. I don't want anyone to say a word. I don't want you to look one way or the other. Politics. Oh boy, that gets nasty real quick. And the moment we let our colors show, man, we've drawn a line in the sand, and it's you believe that, well, you want to do that, and you want to do that. What about another one? What about race? We like to think that maybe we've conquered that. And maybe in some respects we have. But I know there's still a lot of turmoil in our world because of that. I know that Dr. King's, I think it was his, if I'm going to credit it properly, said that the most divisive hour, the most segregated hour in America is Sunday morning at 10 o'clock or something like that. So I can pretend like we've handled that. But have we really? I can think of some other examples, young versus old, where we say, well, those young whippersnappers, if anyone ever, there was, matter of fact, there was this thing on, what was it? It was on like Wave. It's one of the news stations. By the way, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but hey, I don't know. They're going to give $500 a month away to certain people as a guaranteed income plan. I didn't fully read it, I'll be completely honest. So, but I read the comments. I always find the comments interesting on Facebook. I don't ever read the articles, I read the comments. And it was interesting that how divisive this idea is. But then instantly it became, well, we're giving money to young folks. Where's money for old folks? I can't say it's a bad question. But I also say we create these spectrums that we like to exist within. And we want to separate ourselves into categories. And we focus on the things that divide us more so than the things that unite us. You know, we do the same thing in church. It's not like we're immune to it. We do the same thing here. It used to be what version of the Bible you used. Mike, you remember those days? You do. Susan does. Does anyone else remember the days when it was, were you carrying the, what was it? The New King James or the American Standard, the NIV. It was, well, what version of the Bible? And some of you are saying, some of you might still be sitting there saying, well, I need my King James 1611 was the year it was first printed. Good for you. King James has saved a lot of people. All right, so Let me rephrase that. King James Version has led a lot of people to Christ. But we create these things to separate us. You know something else that has been really divisive in the last 2 years? I'm not going to say the word, and it's not just summarized in this little thing. But man, haven't we had a lot of division? The memory verse for this month is Matthew chapter 22, verse 37 through 39. It's the two great commandments given by Jesus. Love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. When I'm in verses 2 and 3 of what Paul is saying in Ephesians 4, I can't help but realize that the problem that we have is that we focus so much on the things that really don't matter. The things that are minuscule in significance on a spiritual matter. Because what is it that is most important to each one of us? What is the most important thing in this entire life to each one of us? I hope your answer is my relationship to God. And if the answer is anything but that, then you need to question where you're at. I'll go ahead and put that out there. If there's anything else, Ashley and I have a phrase in our home that the most important thing for either one of us is God. After that comes the spouse, then comes the kids. Yes, I do not love my kids more than I love my spouse. They are lower than she is. That's the order, that's the hierarchy that we place. If you choose to adopt that, great, or not, that's your opinion. But the most important, thank you, Matt, there you go. The most important thing for any of us is our relationship to God. And if I look at that, if I realize that every one of you have the same relationship to God and that's where we're all at, if I realize that Jesus Christ died for every one of you the same that He died for me, what really else matters? What is there to divide me? Oh, I can have preferences. I can have choices. I can have the things that I like or don't like. And guess what? You're entitled to that. I don't like coffee. I also don't like chocolate milk. I shared that this morning. I don't like chocolate drinks. You can hate me if you don't like that. If you're like, Josh, can't stand you. But at the end of the day, I love Jesus with all of my heart. And I know you do too. So at the end of the day, the thing that really matters is that. You see, that's the final point. Comes up in verse 4, 5, and 6 of Ephesians chapter 4. Is that it's the united church that Paul is preaching about, that Paul is calling us to. And he says that in the middle of a world that's going to try to divide you, in the middle of a Satan who is going to try to persuade and fight and claw his way into the united church that Christ has died for, verse 4, Paul says there's one body. There ain't a whole bunch of them, there's one. There's one Spirit. Granted, we all have our own little spirits, but we're connected to the Spirit. Just as you were called to one hope, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. There is one God that we all serve. And in Him, everything else settles. It doesn't matter. So many of these things that we have created problems about, those things don't matter. Because in the end of it all, we're told to make every effort to keep the unity. And then we're told that all of that unity comes because God is a unified person. There is a far stronger thing that unites us than divides us. There is a far stronger thing that unites us than divides us, and that is Jesus Christ. This morning, I don't know where you're at. physically speaking, because we've got a lot of people that join us online. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? Miss Betty, you've been in Bible class. I loved it when Miss Betty would be in Bible class on Zoom, and she was just 3 minutes from the church building, and then would jump up here and would be here. There's some of you are watching right now. Some of you are very engaged online. Isn't that wonderful? The habit for some, though, and maybe if you're online and you're hearing this, and maybe you're in person today and you're like, I need to hear this. The habit for some is to turn online on and walk away. I know Miss Betty. Betty gave me a weird look. Some people, I will confess, if you're saying I've never done that, Josh has done it. I've done it before. I can confess that. It's a habit. It's an easy habit. When we're not together physically, when I can't look at your face, and even if I'm looking at this, that's okay. When I can't see you, when I can't touch you, when you don't join onto Zoom and you don't say, hey, good morning, good to see you. We have a hard time with community. That's where it's important for us as a church to call one another, to check on one another, to be there for one another. And that's important for you as the responsible person to go and find and to call and to check and to be the stronger person for some people. But for those of you online, it's important for you to say, you know what, I haven't seen Gary. Gary's here back there. I haven't seen Gary in a long time. I'm going to go call Gary. I'm going to check on him. Just remember that the thing that unites us is far stronger than the thing that divides us. And the thing that unites us is Jesus Christ. Satan's going to pull every day that he possibly can to pull you away from a church. He's going to pull every day to pull you away from God because he knows that if he can get you an inkling of away from God, just a small step, if he can just remove you a little bit from God, that he's got you. Satan knows that. And so that is where he is striving to pull the unity of the church away from each other. But if we can come and be united, what a powerful force that would call for the world. What a powerful force that would be. By pursuing unity and the spirit of humility, I believe that we can unleash the power of God in the church to make people see what a Christian community looks like. So my prayer for us, Reese Holt has our application prayer today. Go ahead and start asking him to make his way. But my prayer for us is that we would focus on the things that unite us. And that's what would hold us together as brothers and sisters in Christ.
Bow with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us another day here at church. Let us be people of kindness, of compassion, of love, of peace. Our goal is to bring others to Christ and to bring ourselves there also, because without ourselves being under your word and under your command, we will fall away as well. You are all powerful, Lord, and let your will be done. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.